We begin today with another disputed police shooting, this one in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is receiving all sorts of attention because, again, there's video footage of a fragment of the actual shooting incident. And what you will see here is disturbing, so there is your warning. What you see here is a black man. His name is Jacob. Okay, his name, according to CNN, is, I guess they're now releasing it, so I was a little hesitant about saying it. So Jacob Blake is the man's name. What you can see in this particular case is Jacob Blake walking away from the police officers who are telling him to stop. They have their police weapons drawn on him as he is walking away. He walks over to his car. It is unclear whether he has something in his hand or if he doesn't have something in his hand. It is unclear whether there is something in the car, whether there isn't something in the car. And then they shoot him when he reaches into the car. He's completely ignoring them as all of this goes on. He's been shot either 7 or 9 times by various accounts. And he is now in, I believe, serious condition, so he is still alive. This led off a series of riots last night in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, here's the thing. We literally don't know what happened here. Okay, all you know is what's on the tape. And so all you know is that there's some white police officers. They are following this black man who's walking away from them. They have their guns drawn. We have no idea why their guns are drawn. We have no idea what happened immediately previous to this. We have heard an account that he was breaking up some sort of fight between 2 women, but we literally have no confirmation of this. We don't know whether that is true. The only thing that we know in this particular case is what is on the tape and what is already on record. We know that what is on record is that he has a history of assaulting police. He also has past charges for domestic abuse and a sex crime as well, and there's a warrant for his arrest. That is what we know documentarily. Okay, so that doesn't mean that the shooting is good. It doesn't mean that the shooting is bad. I'm just telling you what we know at this point. What we don't know is whether he was reaching for a gun. We don't know what's in the car. We don't know anything. So the responsible position would be, in this particular case, you hold off on judgment. Maybe it's a bad shooting. Maybe it's not a bad shooting. Maybe it was racially driven, although we literally have no evidence of that. Maybe it's not racially driven. We do not know what happened here, right? That would be the responsible play here by the media. That would be the responsible play here by your political class. Unfortunately, responsibility matters not on Twitter, and it matters not in American public life anymore. Instead, everybody immediately jumps to their pre-existing biases, and that is particularly true on the BLM left, which has decided that this is yet another example of an unarmed black man being shot for no reason at all by the police for racial reasons. And our politicians are simply repeating this, and so are our media. The headline from CNN today: Wisconsin police shoot black man as children watch from a car, attorney says. Okay, so we're now just taking at face value what the attorney says with no additional evidence provided by the cops. The cops have not provided an account of what has happened as of yet at this hour. According to CNN, 2 Wisconsin police officers were on leave Monday as state authorities investigate why a black man was shot multiple times in the back as he entered the driver's side door of an SUV, officials said. Among the witnesses to the Sunday evening shooting in Kenosha were the man's 3 sons. Attorney Ben Crump and the American Civil Liberties Union said the man, identified by the Wisconsin governor as Jacob Blake, is in serious condition and fighting for his life. Crump posted a short video of the shooting, garnering almost 700,000 views, sparking protests that led county officials to institute a curfew until 7 a.m., that would be 6 a.m. Eastern time, on Monday. Protesters overnight broke windows and sprayed graffiti at a Kenosha County administrative building and torched vehicles at a nearby auto dealership. By the way, the torching of the vehicles at the auto dealership was somewhat ironic, considering that the auto dealership literally had a giant sign out front that said Black Lives Matter. It didn't matter. They torched the vehicles anyway. A fire, I mean, you can see the video of it. It's incredible. I mean, these cars are being burned. I don't know if the cars had anything to do with anything. Apparently nothing. But they were being burned. And right outside, there's a big sign that says Black Lives Matter. So that's exciting stuff happening over in Wisconsin. A fire was started at the county courthouse. Officers in tactical gear formed a line to protect a public safety building, according to the local WISN CNN affiliate. Kenosha is about 40 minutes south of Milwaukee. We also have tape of, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we have tape of some BLM allies, maybe Antifa members, because the guy's white, who walks up literally to a sheriff's vehicle with a long gun drawn, pointing at the sheriff. They stop. They literally are pointing weapons at a sheriff's vehicle. And everything is going really well. Everything is going really, really well. And naturally, this would be a good time for our political class to, maybe take the temperature down a little bit. Wouldn't this be a good time for our public leaders to say things like, this is under full investigation. The police officers have been taken off duty while we investigate the incident and find out what happened here. Wouldn't now be a good time to say, let's let the process work? Every single officer involved shooting in the United States is fully investigated. That does not mean there are not incidents where officers go unpunished for things they should be punished for. That does happen. Okay, but We have no evidence that's going to happen here. We have no evidence of what exactly happened here. And if you are the head of your state's law enforcement body, right? Let's say you're the governor of the state. Wouldn't you say at this point, you're the head of the executive branch? Wouldn't you say at this point, let's wait for the process to work? But no, our politicians have decided there's much more hay to be made in suggesting openly that this is a racially driven bad police shooting based on no evidence whatsoever yet, right? Just based on that fragmentary tape. Police said they were called to respond to a domestic disturbance. It is unclear who called 911 or what happened before the recording begins. It's not clear from the video if both of the officers opened fire. There are two officers. The second officer has his gun out as the shots are heard. All officers are cooperating. Neither officer has been identified. DCI, which is the Department of Internal Affairs over there, is continuing to review evidence and determine the facts of this incident and will turn over investigative reports to a prosecutor following a complete and thorough investigation, the statement said. Okay, so what did our wonderful members of the political class do here? Instead of taking down the temperature, and it does matter if you take down the temperature here, because we have seen situations already, like within the last couple of weeks, in which bad accounts of police shootings went viral and caused actual riots, right? The Chicago Loop riots were caused by online rumors that a child had been shot unarmed by a police officer. It turned out not to be true at all. It turned out that there was a man shooting at police officers who was shot. Didn't matter. People went and rioted in the Chicago Loop. By the way, rioting is not justified even if there's a bad shooting. We have answers for that in this country. That is called the police officer goes to jail. That is called the police officer is dragged up on charges, as they should be if you do something wrong. Okay, the answer to this is never burning crap in the streets, but our political class, at least on the left, have decided it is mostly important that they get their spilkas out on Twitter, that they go out there and they show their narrative empathy on Twitter. And if you don't jump to a conclusion on Twitter, you're considered bad, right? If you wait too long. If you wait too long, then if you say, maybe we should wait for the evidence, and then I'll say that this fits into a pattern of X, Y, or Z, then you are considered bad and wrong and terrible. Our political incentive system rewards people who jump out front and back a narrative before the evidence is in. And then what if the evidence doesn't back it? We just ignore it. It just goes away, right? We just rewrite the situation, the factual situation, in order to meet the narrative. This is what happened with Michael Brown. People still list Michael Brown among quote-unquote victims of police shootings, despite the fact that the Obama DOJ found that shooting to be justified, despite the fact that local prosecutors twice found that shooting to be justified. Michael Brown in all the lists is always included in the lists. Freddie Gray is always included in the list of wrongful police killings, despite the fact that there was a full investigation into Freddie Gray's death and he was not actually murdered by the police. He died because they didn't buckle him into the back of the police van properly, and then he banged his head, unfortunately, on the back of the police van, right? That is the actual autopsy showing. There was a full investigation done. Rayshard Brooks is listed among the victims of police violence, even though he tried to tase two separate officers and was firing a taser at an officer when he was shot. The individual facts of the circumstances don't matter. They don't matter at all. Only the narrative matters. And once the narrative has been set, then the victims and the villains have been drawn, and then we just change up the narrative we just change up the facts in order to match the narrative. We're going to see this in just 1 second. And it really is egregious. It's creating excuses for people to burn cities, which is terrible. And if you're a member of the political class, it is literally your job to prevent this from happening. This is the only reason that you're in government, is to prevent people from doing violence to one another and violating each other's rights. That is your only reason for being in government. And yet your suggestion is that riots are somehow justified because America is a deeply horrible, terrible, very evil place with no evidence yet in this case. None. By the way, we still don't know if Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. First of all, whether he murdered him, and the autopsies are conflicting, but we still don't know whether that had anything to do with race. There is no evidence it had to do with race rather than just police brutality. It doesn't matter. The narrative's already been set. And once the narrative is set, it cannot be unset. How do our absolutely responsible politicians respond to all of this? In the least responsible possible way. And truly, it's disgusting. When you have public officials who are backing a narrative without the evidence in, it's horrifying. So Governor Tony Evers, who is the governor of the state of Wisconsin, right? He's the governor where this happened. Here's what he said. He says, while we do not have all the details yet, what we know for certain is that he is not the first black man or person to have been shot or injured or mercilessly killed at the hands of individuals in law enforcement in our state or our country. Do you understand how deeply horrifying that statement is from a politician? Well, we don't know anything about this shooting. We do know that all of these terrible things have happened in the past. What? I mean, seriously, what? So you have a situation where you don't know whether a murder occurred or whether a justified shooting occurred, and you just lump it in with all of the racial murders of the past in the United States without any evidence in yet, without any investigation yet, without any knowledge of who the officer is, without any discussion of who the suspect is, without any discussion of the situation surrounding the officer and the suspect. That's just how that is the only thing that we know, right? Is that we know that America is a deeply horrible racist place. It's not just the governor of the state. It is his responsibility to keep his state from burning. It is his responsibility, and he has completely betrayed that responsibility. It's not just him. It's politicians across the Democratic spectrum. Jamal Bowman, who just won a contested primary in New York. He just beat Elliot Engel. So he's going to enter Congress because that's a very Democratic district. He tweeted out, 3 boys just saw their father shot 7 times in the back by police. No gun, no struggle. He was just walking away. Praying for Jacob Blake to make a speedy and full recovery. The issue is systemic. The Senate needs to respond boldly and humanely. This is why we scream BLM. No gun, no struggle? How do you know that? How does he know? Like, seriously, how do we know? We don't know yet. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I don't know. He doesn't know. It does not matter. I mean, it literally does not matter. If it turns out there was a gun in the car and this guy was reaching for the gun in the car, they'll just say, well, they didn't know there was a gun in the car, so why did they shoot him? Why didn't they tase him? Why didn't they tackle him? All of our newfound police experts who have put their lives on the line to protect their communities, 0%. It's very exciting stuff to watch our politicians virtue signal at the expense of police officers without any evidence. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who has watched her city burn, the same Mayor Lori Lightfoot, by the way, who recently defended a ban on protesters on her block. She literally was fine with Chicago's loop being burned out, but she has allowed the Chicago Police Department to ban protesters being able to demonstrate on the block where she lives. She told reporters last Thursday she and her family at times required heightened security because of the threats she receives daily. Lightfoot refused to elaborate on the specific threats. She receives them daily against herself, her wife, and her home, she says. She says, I think residents of the city, understanding the nature of the threats that we are receiving on a daily basis, understand I have a right to make sure that my home is secure. Oh, really, Lori Lightfoot? So you have a right to expect that your home is secure, but nobody else's home is secure. Just you. We had the same thing with Jenny Durkin, the mayor of Seattle, in the middle of Chaz Chop when they set up the separate republic in the middle of Seattle, where people's businesses were overrun by an actual anti-government, anti-American rebellion. And she allowed that to happen for weeks on end. She only got pissed when people started marching on her home. In Portland, we've seen Mayor Ted Wheeler allow people's businesses, their homes to be threatened. We're seeing it in Washington, D.C. We're seeing it in New York. We're seeing it in Los Angeles. We're seeing all this stuff happen. The only people who matter are our political class. Only our political class matter. They get to say whatever irresponsible, insane thing they want to say, but they are protected, so they're fine. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, her house is protected. Doesn't matter, the Chicago loop gets basically ransacked. So what did she tweet about this? Quote, yesterday in Wisconsin, a police officer shot Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man, a father, 7 times in the back. I am deeply disturbed by the video capturing part of the incident. I urge civil and criminal authorities to pursue an immediate and thorough investigation of the shooting. First of all, they are doing an immediate and thorough investigation of the shooting. Second of all, she's disturbed by the video capturing part of the incident. If you don't have the whole incident, then sure, that part of the video is disturbing. I mean, whenever somebody gets shot on video, it's disturbing. But wouldn't you want to have like the whole video? Wouldn't you want to know all the circumstances? And it doesn't matter because she's already characterized the situation. It's a police officer shooting Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man. Again, we don't know if he was unarmed. A father, 7 times in the back. And they won't mention the fact, of the prior criminal record. Like, if you're going to take into account only the things that we know, then perhaps the prior criminal record goes into the officer's thinking. They pull up a rap sheet on the guy while they're driving to the place, perhaps. I mean, we don't know the answer to any of that. Doesn't justify the shooting. Yet, we don't know. But that's the whole point. We don't freaking know. I'm saying we don't know. Why can't these people say we don't know? And the answer is because the narrative matters way more than the actual facts of the case. Representative Joe Kennedy, who's running for Senate in Massachusetts, he tweeted out, there will be no end to the police brutality and white supremacy black Americans confront on a daily basis without action and real change. Jacob Blake, an entire nation is praying for you. He literally does not know what happened here because no one knows what happened here. I didn't realize that Joe Kennedy was now God. There will be no end to the police brutality and white supremacy black Americans confront on a daily basis. No end to it? This is like when Michelle Obama said at the convention last week, there's a never-ending list of black people shot by police. Nope, that list ends. It turns out that list ends. It turns out the list of unarmed black men shot unjustifiably by police is in like low double digits. And even that is disputed. It's the Washington Post database. So it turns out that list has an end. Joe Kennedy saying there's no end to police brutality and white supremacy? Weird, because there was a Gallup poll that was done 2 weeks ago that said 81% of black Americans want the same level of policing in their communities or more policing in their communities. which is a weird thing to want if you're constantly being targeted by the police on racial basis. Our politicians are so damned irresponsible. I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.